welcome to Our Self-Love Story, the audio diary podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Hess, and today we are taking another step to falling deeper in self-love. So today I'm here in the studio once again by myself because this is actually the finale of season 1 of Our Self-Love Story. So I started off season 1 sitting down by myself in the studio talking to y'all, and I just thought that it would just be like a perfect, ending to this season to just come back again and talk to y'all about this first phase of my self-love journey and just reflect on this season and everything that I talked about with my guests. So overall, I feel like season 1 was a really great season. I got to speak with 2 amazing guests, both of which were my cousins, or are my cousins, Noria, Jacoria, and Mariah. They were both really phenomenal guests. And we had really great conversations about so many different topics related to self-love. So we talked about having faith, new beginnings, the faith that you must have when you're starting something new, whether that's like a business or a job opportunity or just anything in general, that could also apply to, a new diet or a new lifestyle. It just takes a lot of faith to start something new and to continue onto that journey. So that's what I talked about with Jacoria. We also talked about our natural hair and how hair is so important to self-love because when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, it's easier to love yourself, honestly. And then with Mariah, we talked about a lot of really great topics, really groundbreaking topics, if you ask me, that are related to self-love. So we talked about relationship goals. Y'all remember, that's the word that I made up. Okay, if you don't remember, head back to Mariah's episode to remember, get the definition of a relationship goal. But I'll just give you the definition now. So me relationship goal is a relationship with yourself, with me. And in that case, for me is my relationship with myself, and for you is your relationship with yourself. So me and Mariah talked about that. We talked about self-love languages, like how you love to love yourself. We talked about our self-love must-haves, like the qualities that we must have to love ourselves. And those conversations really just changed the way that I look at self-love, and they allowed me to be like really vulnerable with my feelings and with my guests. And it was just a really, I like being able to talk to people and say this is how I feel, because I think about these things a lot, but I don't talk about them with people a lot. So, having them on the show and being able to talk to them about it and be so open was really helpful for me, just to get my thoughts out of my head. Like I say all the time, this podcast really just helps me get a lot of stuff that I think about out of my head and into the world and into the minds of other people. So that's what we talked about. And with this season, I feel like I have been really vulnerable. I was talking about insecurities and identifying those insecurities, like me being self-conscious about my looks, me being overly concerned about what people think about me, me kind of struggling at work and finding my way professionally. Those are all very real things that that I deal with on a day-to-day basis and that are a part of my self-love journey. And I was really vulnerable, I would say, just talking about those things. Those are especially me talking about being insecure with my looks, that's, or having low self-esteem, that was really hard for me to even let it come out of my mouth. That was really hard. But I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that I got it out and admitted it to myself, and not hopefully, because I don't want other people to feel insecure, but I do know that my listeners are on self-love journeys as well, and so hopefully somebody can relate to that, and we can grow together and overcome that that insecurity together, which ultimately will be a really great thing for anybody that's dealing with that. So from looking back at the episodes and listening to myself, I realized a couple things about myself when it comes to self-love. So one is what I already mentioned, that right now I'm like kind of being overly concerned about what people think about me. Now, don't get me wrong, like people's perception of you is important to a certain degree. Like you don't want to just be out here just wild. At least to me, like you still want to be, I still want people to look at me in a good light, overall positive light, right? And I feel like that a lot of people, I feel like most people want that. Like most people want to be viewed in a mostly positive light. But if I feel like for me, my concern with what people thought about me was kind of becoming like I was overly concerned, like I said, like concerned to the point that I'm like anxious. Like if I'm concerned about how people think of me to the point that I'm feeling anxious, like I get nervous to speak or to do certain things, like to me that's just too much. That's like overdoing it. So I realized, looking back at this season, that I've just been, way too concerned with how people think of me. And moving forward, like that's something I need to just really work on. Just like everybody, these are regular people. The people who I'm like concerned about what they think about me, these are regular people. They're not no better than me, they're not no worse than me. We all the same. And so for me to just be so concerned with how they think about me is like, why? Like for what? Like everybody have their own insecurities, issues, whatever. And just like they could judge me, I could judge them. And not saying that I will judge them, but I'm just saying like these people not perfect, and just like I'm not perfect. And it's no need for me to just be like so concerned about what they think, because we all human at the end of the day, and they not no better than me. So that's one thing that I learned, like, from reflecting from this season. And then another thing that I learned is that, or one thing that I realized is that self-love is an action. So I think that talking about the things that I need to work on or that bother me or my insecurities, I think that's very important. A very important part of self-love. But I think there's two parts of self-love, which is what I realized. So there's the part of self-love where you're like being open and vulnerable with yourself and with others. And then there's the second part of self-love when you're acting out that love for yourself. So when you're physically showing yourself love, whether that's like, buying yourself gifts or just setting a goal and sticking to it, waking up early, having a daily routine, enjoying your life more, spending time with your family. Whatever the case is, I think that is the part that I'm missing right now when it comes to my self-love journey. Or that wasn't really included in I won't say that it's missing, but that wasn't really a part of this first phase of my self-love journey. So I did a lot of talking about self-love and like what I need to do and what I need to work on, which is great. And then so with season 2, I'm going to be doing the work to be in love with myself. And so I definitely look forward to that in season 2. So stay tuned for season 2, because that's definitely going to be a part of the next season of our self-love story. And then also in season 2, I'm going to get some male guests. Like season 1, I didn't have any male guests. But I definitely want to get the male perspective on, topics related to self-love, like insecurities, dating, self-love languages, whatever the case is. I want to hear the male perspective, because self-love is definitely not just limited to women. Self-love is for women, men, old, young, rich, poor. Like self-love is literally, it affects everybody. And so I want to, get all type of perspectives when it comes to self-love. So that is my recap of season 1 of our self-love story. This is a kind of short episode, but I feel like, I talked about everything that's needed to be talked about. But you know that I cannot end the episode without doing the self-love deck segment, which I have here. So I'm going to pull a random card and go ahead and answer it. So let's do this one. Let's see. For the next 30 seconds, pretend your words are arms. What words would you use to hug yourself? Wow, okay, I'm going to do this one. So my words are arms. And what would I do? What would I say to love yourself? Let me put on the timer. Let me put on the timer so I can really do this. Hold up. Let me pull it up on my laptop. Timer. I'm about to do this for 30 seconds. Where's the timer at? My bad, y'all. I gotta find the timer. Oh, no, I can do a timer just like this. All right, for the next 30 seconds, I'm gonna hug myself with my words. Oh. You know, I'm not really a big hugger, but we're gonna do it. All right, so I would say, Brandy, you are beautiful. Brandy, you are a very smart person, and deep down, you have a really good heart. And I recognize that you're trying to do better. You're trying to, evolve into the person that you always envision yourself to be. And I think that's something that you should be proud of, because it's not easy to do, but you're doing it, and it's taking time, but you're still going through the process, and it's going to be a fun process. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing your journey, and I'm proud of you for having the courage to do so. So that was 30 seconds. I really do feel hugged after doing that. Like, this might be my favorite question so far. This is a really cool question. I love this question. I think that was really good. All right, y'all. So this wraps up season 1 of Our Self-Love Story. Thank you so much for tuning in and coming along with me on my self-love journey, joining my guests. I'm going to say thank you on their behalf too. Thank you for coming along on their self-love journeys as well. I hope you are, going on your own self-love journeys, and I hope it's going well for you. If it's not going well, hey, that's a part of the journey too, because you can learn from the down times. So wherever you are in your self-love journey, I just hope that you stay encouraged to follow through with it. And I hope that you will, join me on my self-love journey, and we can do this together. So like I said, stay tuned for season 2. I'm not going to have y'all waiting too long. And we have a lot to look forward to. We're gonna have men on the show, okay? And then we're also gonna be acting out self-love, which I'm so excited to do. And yeah, peace. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Our Self-Love Story. I hope this content helps you as you embark on your own self-love journey. Please rate and review the show, and join the OSLS community conversation on YouTube today. Your post could be our next conversation starter.